And it's crazy because none of them are me now. That's like the crazy part. So like I can go over everything that made me in regards to like challenges and traumas, because that's usually how we describe ourselves, as like the bad that happened. And I see it as my tools. So this last year, I had a lot of loss. My first love, my first husband, my son's father, passed away. And within a month, my brother passed away. And a lot of other things happened at the same time, but those two really hit me. And my son decided to become a monk. So that was like thrown in. And it was a lot. And I just went into a deep depression where I was traumatized. And the truth is, I really didn't know what emotion was attached to what situation. There were just so many. And every day it was like, now what? Now what? Now what's gonna happen? And I started documenting my lessons. During this process, not only did I learn a lot about myself, but I had to remember things. I had to remember every single lesson that I ever had. And I call it a lesson, but when it was happening, it was a trauma. It was neglect. It was abuse. It was poverty. It was bad. And as I recognized that I had these strengths, I have 52 lessons, it empowered me because I remembered my brother and I. My brother was 1 year older than me, and he and I raised ourselves. So my mom came from Mexico and didn't speak the language and was very beautiful and was bullied. Was treated so bad every day that she dropped out of high school and got a job and met my dad, and they fell in love, and it was this thing. She was a virgin, they got married, and her life was going to be perfect. Well, a year after my brother, she was pregnant with me, my dad leaves her. In America, no skills, 2 kids, and she is madly in love with this Prince Charming that she believes is going to come back at some point. That was my mom's gateway and trauma to get, in my opinion, the worst mental illness there is. She's paranoid schizophrenic. So until she was diagnosed, life was hell, because not only were we protecting my mother, but we were taught to lie so that no one knew we were being neglected, my brother and I. So when I was 4, I was playing outside and I got taken away by the police because the neighbor was like, this little kid's outside by herself. Something's not okay. They pick me up, they take me, and I'm crying. I'm in a foster home. And they're like, you know, here's the beds, and it was like bunk beds. It was just a lot. I was so afraid. And I said, I'm just gonna wait by the door, my mom will be here. And they said, no, it takes days for the judge to return you, and they're explaining to me the legal process at 4. Of course, I don't get it, I don't understand it. So I go crawl into the bunk bed they assigned me, and I'm crying and I'm praying. And it was my first major memory, that day of course, but I remember crying all night, praying that I could help little girls like me. I was so pissed that that happened to me. And I was afraid for my mom and my brother, but I was afraid that kids had to be in a situation that they didn't understand, because I understood my reality. And so that day changed everything for me, because from that point on, I made a deal that I was gonna help kids like me, and I wasn't gonna let my mom get in trouble for neglecting us. And you know, I wasn't gonna get taken away again and all that good stuff. Because my mom did get me back. But because of that situation, every time she was in and out of the mental institution, I protected her and I didn't share this with anyone. I'd walk miles as a little kid to family members in the inner cities, houses to eat, to feel safe, without sharing what was happening in my home. And I know that a lot of us experienced things when we were growing up, but we also share what we were taught until we recognize that it's not beneficial. So as I was forging my mom's name, enrolling my brother and I into school, I was on the RTD bus at 7 years old. I was super aware of energy. I was super aware of when I was and wasn't safe. I was super aware that I was protected by God. We all have something bigger than us that we believe in. I don't care if you say the universe, spirit, God, Buddha, Allah, Krishna. There's so many words that are everything. One of my favorites I've heard recently is nature. It's nature. That's everything. We're nature. We're everything. And when we connect to God, when we connect to ourselves, that's when we're unstoppable. And that's what I understood it for. And I look back, like, what the fuck? How did I get through all that shit? That's crazy. That, I mean, oh my God. So when I was writing my book, I was like, I can't make this shit up. This is crazy. And like, part of me cried, like, this isn't fair to anyone to experience this, to live this, to, and then the other part of me was like, but I always had it in me. And when I became a healer, because healing others has been important to me forever, I dug and dug and dug and dug and dug inside to figure out what I needed to understand and heal so that I could heal others. And it started with me. So my pain had to be addressed. And I knew that it started from childhood. So I was like, I'm gonna go to Peru and do ayahuasca and get to the bottom of this. So I contacted some shamans and they like interviewed me and they said I was cool, they let me in. And I went and did ayahuasca. And what came up for me, what God told me, was that every single person that wronged me, because little girl me faced them all, one by one. My father that abandoned us, that I believe made my mom nuts. My brother that was a total bully because he was in pain because of his abandonment issues. My exes that were absolutely horrific to me because of their own struggles. God said to me, you were always stronger than them. You were always stronger. You were always stronger with each person I faced. I was like, poor me, they're adults, they're, you know, and it's like, no, you are here for them. You are stronger. Get over it. Get your shit together and share what you have with others so that they can do the same. And that scared me because that meant me sharing with people the truth. Because I was a young mother. I got married at 17. I was Mormon. And I was taught, you know, date, you marry. I was divorced by 19. I had my first business at 19. First, I went to school for physical therapy. Then I started my first hair salon. I was a hairstylist for over 20 years. I still am sometimes for people I like. They're my family and I'm gonna do their hair forever.
Still waiting for it.
Well, you canceled on me, Tits.
And you canceled on me, Tits.
Good. Anyway, I owned a nightclub at 23. I got a liquor license. My attorney advised me against it. He said, if you get a liquor license, you're gonna fail. I was like, who are you talking to? So I got my liquor license. And I ran it for 7 years. And I learned how to like show up for myself. I learned how to like be me and be okay with it when people were looking at me. Because when I was 4, I was taught, don't get caught, don't be seen. you know, seeing my mom endure and live the life she lived, the last thing I wanted was to be bullied and treated the way she was treated, get left by a husband that was gonna leave me with nothing and kids. Like, everything my mom was everything I didn't want to be, but then I realized that everything my mom was strength. Her mental illness, her disabilities with the language, with her timidness, she still powered through and she became a nurse. She bought a beautiful home, like everything that she came to America for. And she made me believe that I could do anything in this world. And all of her limitations and everything that prevented her from doing it never stopped her. She still overcame and overcame and overcame. And as I saw her do it, I knew I could do it too. And I knew that if I could figure out how I did it, I could share it with others. So when I was grieving and I was depressed and I didn't get out of bed for a year, I created a tool so that if I never left my house again or if I died, I could share my, I swear, I was like, I could die now. And I was good with it. I'm not afraid. But what I do want to do is I want to share 4 cards with the group. And then I want to take questions. And then I want to discuss anything that is heavy in your heart right now. Any of you that you want to discuss that you feel that you need answers to or benefit from with all these people around you. If I don't have the answers, someone here will. And if we don't have the answers, we'll get them. Because that's what we do. We come up with solutions.
That's what you know, my child's obsessed with the cars.
Aren't they great?
She loves them.
I put everything into them, and it's just a piece of me. And when people get the deck, they get a piece of me and they know it, and it's a beautiful thing to create something, you guys. I mean, I come from poverty, from the projects. I volunteer all the time. I'm still in the inner city. Any chance I get an opportunity, anything I have, I share. And nothing in this world led me to believe that this was possible for me. To be an author, to be a 6-figure earner for so many years. I mean, I have accomplished so much just showing up for myself. Not letting anyone define me. Not letting anyone say you are or aren't worthy. I decided I was worthy, and then I did whatever the fuck I wanted, and it worked. So I think we should all do the same. I'm pro, do what the fuck you want. Okay, first card, storytelling. Stop turning your feelings into stories. The drama, right? You're the villain or the victor or
The victim.
or the victim. And we do that. Something happens, and then we like, so guess what? The delivery guy came, and he was late. And then, and then we do this.
Say that card again.
We create a story.
What is the name of the card?
This is called storytelling.
Storytelling.
And Jackie did the art on this, you guys. Like, she's a badass designer. So turning your feelings into a story is a limiting belief, really. Because when we create an illusion for ourselves, it's because we're not holding ourselves accountable and we're not ready to repair it. And it's almost like what gives us the excuse to not deal. Or we want to invoke an emotion in others. There's so many reasons why this isn't healthy, because that's where we create toxic relationships. Yeah?
Well, that story can be a good story. It doesn't always have to be a bad, sad,
You know,
sorrowful
this one is meant for you to not think about what you're gonna tell people and how they're gonna see it, but you being in the moment.
Okay.
Because this is like, when we wait for what we're gonna say in response to what someone says, we're not listening to them. When we think that this situation's gonna be this way, and when we go and we assume and we have an expectation, that's why we get let down. It's just like when you think you're drinking a Coca-Cola and it's a glass of milk. That's shocking, like, wow, it's milk, because you had an expectation attached. So this is just like, be present, feel it, before your head goes into like what it means, who thinks, you know, because that's where we get in our heads.
Yeah.
That's when we get in our heads. Slow down, take your time. This is another be present card. And this one has saved my life. This one, who's familiar with Abraham Hicks?
Love
So when you get in your vortex, when you are in your energy, you can see everything. Has anybody ever been in a car accident where it's like slow motion and you see the whole thing happen?
Yeah.
That's being present, where everything just slows down and you see it and you feel it, and it's all separated and it's all connected, and nature does this for us. Nature is the best way to feel everything bigger than you without effort on your part. Because we go to amusement parks in Vegas and it's an illusion of excitement and we desensitize ourselves. We need to like desensitize ourselves and take it back to the basics and appreciate beauty, the sunset, the sunrise, the stars, the smell of the air, you know, that's being present. That's stop and smell the roses. Next we have protected. There is nothing to fear. We have, I call it a threshold. And our energy is up to us. That's all we have control over. And when we keep ourselves above baseline in the positive frequencies, I'll post it somewhere, and whoever's in charge of everybody, if you guys can get it to them for me. This explains your energy and your emotion in that moment. And it's like, people say, oh, but my husband did this and blah, 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 and my job, blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, when you look at it in its entirety, people that aren't happy will find a reason to be unhappy with everybody in front of them. And that's their stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also within us to recognize when we're doing that, when we're being grumpy, when we're waiting for everything to go wrong so that we can have a reason to be pissed. So when you recognize that I am protected, I always have what I need, why am I so afraid? Like, we all legit sit in corners shaking like someone's about to kill us, like just because we want to be afraid sometimes. And it's very important for us to recognize that we've evolved, we're safer, like we're in a world where most people are kind. We see the crazies because they're on the internet, they're on the news, and that's what we talk about most. But when you drive through a neighborhood, there's thousands of houses and everybody's chilling, being boring. There's no rioting going on. And that's what the majority of the world is people being happy in their homes, in their families, not being consumers. And we believe everybody's a consumer, everybody's getting a new Lexus for Christmas and, you know, whatever. No, that's not happening. So just know that you're always safe. Last, we have appreciation. Start each day with gratitude in the little things. So this is how you reset yourself every day. You reset your frequency and you count your blessings, and you realize that everything is a blessing. Yesterday I stubbed my toe really bad. I'm pretty sure it's broken. And it fucking hurt. And I was,
We all
yeah, no, I was. And then my heater wasn't working, and oh man, I had every right to like flip out. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna order some food because I don't want to go outside. It's too cold to go grocery shopping. And I wiggled all the batteries and I changed the filter, and it worked, and I felt all independent, and I was drinking wine like, yeah, I got this. I don't need nobody. But it took me not freaking out about all the little things that weren't that big of a deal. So when we recognize the little things, and then today my son's like sent me this phenomenal message, and then I got all these great messages all day, and then this, and it's just like, you gotta remember, there's so many good things. It's what we focus on. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
You're amazing.
No, this is like a burning question. Like I came for this.
Yeah.
What do you do when you don't know what you want? Like, I know exactly the life I wanna lead and live. You know, like I can see it, I can taste it, I can feel it, but as far as like how to get there, I don't know.
That's the question right now, and I think that's why it's safe to say that when we started, I said we're all in transition. Whether we think we are or not, the world's changing. Nothing is the same. Whatever we thought we knew, whatever we thought we were working on, we grew up and now it's not that even enticing anymore. And it's very important for you. You did say, I know what I want, I just don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can visualize
Yeah.
what it feels like, what your day would be like.
I don't know that, but I do know what I want in the future. Like, well, actually, yes, kind of how my.
You know the feeling, right?
Yeah.
So,
I know what it
That's-
looks like, I know what, you know, the specifics aren't that important, but yeah, I know what it looks like, maybe yes, what my day would be like, I do have like an ideal of what my day would be like, but I'm not there yet, so I don't.
so I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Yeah.
And my sister right here, she's like, you're already there.
Now.
We're gonna
Every
talk
single
about
day.
this. Because you know what? Each step makes the next possible. And sometimes recovering is what we need. So, I mean, I've been busy my whole life. Like, that's my middle name, man. And this year, I couldn't get out of bed. I was dead. I really was. It was another ego death. It was this, I'm a hairstylist. I am, you know, deep-rooted. I'm all of these things that I would show up for, and then they weren't there for me to show up to them. And I realized that I had a void in me that had to do with me. Because you have your family, you have your jobs, you have, and you know what? No, here's the thing. That is so badass because you don't get stuck in a place from this time to this time where you can't get your kids to daycare and they're gonna fire you because your kid's sick. Like, some people have that as a reality. And the fact that you're like, I'll drive and notarize that shit, you know, like, you need to recognize that you created that for yourself. That is something that you prayed for before and you're living it now. And you cannot waste it because you're not somewhere else yet. Because guess what happens? Your children, your husband, your businesses, they need you to be present because everybody needs to get back to basics. Because everybody got stuck on their phones. Everybody started thinking life was vacations and who knows, who cares? But life is in those moments where you're laughing, where you're feeding them. You know, my son's 24. I would love if that kid let me feed him. I would love to be his mommy again. But I was dragging my kid around in my hair salons. But you know what? I got to have my son in my hair salons. I was like, you poor baby, you were raised like, you know, and I think about it, but I'm like, no. That kid turned 18 and moved to Manhattan and started the baddest fashion company and is just a little brilliant machine because he saw one of his quotes that he'd say to me, his mom, I never listened to shit you said, but I followed every footstep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And so there I was, like, I better get my shit together. And I grew up and I became better because of him. He is who I have to thank. And you need to recognize that you being with your kiddos, them seeing you, you showing up in different little ways that bring it all together is so beautiful, and you need to recognize that.
And she said earlier, when she mentioned God, the universe, blah, 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 whatever you wanna call it, there's a purpose in everything.
Yeah.
So you're manifesting that life that you're waiting on, that you're looking for, in everything that you're doing today. That's why I was shaking my head with what she was saying. Every single thing that you do is purposeful for what you're going to be, and what you're going to get, and where you're going to be in your future. And as long as you keep that picture in your mind, you'll be there.
And it all counts.
You just gotta,
And
like she said, take